Hi, and welcome back. In this video, we're going to take a look at our third-person character, get the animations working, and get her walking around in the scene. I hope you enjoy the video, and thanks for watching. All right, so next thing we're going to do is set up Arissa's animations. And so to do that, first of all, we need what's called a blend space. So we're going to right-click here in the blueprint section, go into animation, and click on blend space. Now we're going to use a two-dimensional blend space because we're later going to add the 2 dimensions in, but for now we're just going to use it as a one-dimensional space. I selected the Arissa space, and now it says new blend space, so I want to type in anim blend space, and we'll double click on that, and this is a blend space. Over here in the right hand corner in my layout, we have all of the animations that are assigned to her skeleton. And if we start by taking the idle animation and bring it over here and drop it here, immediately you see her idle animation. This blend space has 2 axes. It has this left and right axes, which is going to be direction, and it has the vertical axis, which is going to be the speed. So what we're going to do is name those axes right now. So here's the horizontal axis. We're going to call it direction. And we're going to set the minimum value to minus 180 and the maximum value to 180. And that gives 360 degrees of rotation for the horizontal axis. For the vertical axis, we're going to call it speed. And we're going to set a minimum value of 0. And the maximum value we're going to set is 800. The maximum value running speed in the controller is set by default to 600. And we're going to use that for a normal jog. But we've got a faster sprint or run. We've got running, we've got jog forward, and we've got running. And we've also got walking. And we're going to use buttons to select those on the PC. Later we can use a controller to control it, so you get an analog feel between those. We're going to worry about the direction stuff later. It's a little bit more complicated to set up. So what we're going to start with is just using this center axis right here. And so we're going to treat this as a 1D space for now. And we've already got our idle when her speed is at 0. So the next one we want is walking, and we want to set that at about 200. So if this is 800, each of these increments is 200. So we'll set that at a speed of 200. We'll set jogging at a speed of 600. So jog forward is 600, and running we're going to make be the 800 position. Now, if we hold shift, we now control this speed input. So as her speed starts increasing, she starts walking, and so there at 200 is a normal walk, and here's a run, and here's a fast run or a sprint. So those are all in place. This is all done for now. We can save this and we can close it. And I'm going to close the game mode, the Arissa skeleton, the project settings, and the Arissa BP for the moment. So the next thing that we need is an animation blueprint. And that's found right here under animation and animation blueprint. I'm going to select that, and we want to select the Arissa skeleton again and click OK. And we will call this Arissa Anim BP. And double click it. Open this out. There we go. So this is called an animation blueprint. And this is going to be the output pose of our blueprint. Well, we could take any one of these and just plug it in there, and the output of this would just be that idle all the time. But we don't want to do that. We want to have some control over it. So what we're going to do here is right click, and we're going to type in, we're going to right click and type in add new state machine. And this state machine is where we're going to control all the different things that she does. Walking, running, jumping, crouching, shooting a gun, whatever it may be, or in her case, a bow, firing a bow, will all be handled inside this state machine. And I'm going to rename this Arissa state machine, though it doesn't really matter what you call it. I'm going to double click the state machine, and you'll notice up here this is our anim graph. When we go into the state machine, we get it up here. This is the Arissa state machine. A state machine is essentially a device to allow you to change different states of a system in a precise way, in a very planned way. So we're going to take this. So this is the entry state. This is where it comes in, where it starts out at. We're going to bring this over, and I'm going to drag it out, and I'm going to select add state, and I'm going to call this state simply idle. So that's her idle state. I'm going to click on this edge of this state. If this white edge here, if you pull that out, you drag out another arrow. And I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click add state, and I'm going to call this moving. So this will be when she's walking or running or jogging or anything else. Now from the moving state, we want to be able to go back to idle. So we can draw off this and place this back here into idle. Now, this means that we can go from idle to moving and moving to idle, which for the moment, that's all we're going to do. We'll add jumping and crouching in later. You'll notice these two little icons right here by it. These are the guard conditions that decide whether you move from idle to moving or moving to idle. So what do we want that to be? Well, we want that to be based on the character's current speed. So what we're going to do is go over to the event graph right here. This is our event of most importance right here. It's the blueprint update animation, and this is what's going to decide what we're going to do. Okay? And this gives us a little delta time index if we need it for any calculations. All right. So the first thing we need to do is determine Arissa's speed. So we need to get the player pawn. Sorry, we're thinking about different kinds of blueprints. Okay, all we want to do here is say cast to Arissa BP, and this will cast the player pawn, which we want to get down here. Still wanted to get that, get player pawn, and plug the player pawn into here. And if this succeeds, we will have cast it to the Arissa BP. And from the Arissa BP, we want to get the speed. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to draw off of here. Excuse me, we're going to draw off of here and say get velocity. Get velocity. And we're going to pull off of here and type in vector length. So the length of this velocity vector is the current speed of our character. So a velocity vector says I'm going at a certain speed, but it also has information about the direction. We're only interested in the speed, not the velocity. So that is the length of that vector, is the speed. And what we're going to do is set a variable. So what I'm going to do is right click here and say promote to variable. And this new variable I'm going to call speed. And now all we have to do is hook this up, and I'm going to make this a little bit neater. Pull this in. Pull this in here. Hook this output up to here. And now whenever this updates the animation, it'll update that speed variable, which we have right here. I'm going to compile this and save it and go back here to my state machine. So speed, in order to be moving, if I'm idle, it means my speed is 0. So if I'm moving, my speed is going to be greater than some amount. It's going to be something greater than 0. Let's go back to here. What I just did was I took this, in order to, this guard condition to move from idle to moving, and double clicked on it. And it opened up another print, which is the result. And so I'm going to take speed, my speed variable over here, drag it on, select get. So I've got my speed, and I want to have it anything greater than 0. If it's greater than 0, go ahead and move into that next state. So if we go back here to our state machine, that's now set. And you can see it says here speed is greater than 0. That's what it's going to allow it to go from idle to moving. From moving to idle, well, when speed, we'll get it, is greater than 0, and I'm going to say not. So speed should never be less than 0. We just don't want it to be greater than 0. So the easiest logical operation here is to say not greater than 0. I could say equal to 0, but and this is probably equivalent to equal to 0, but we really should have some value. We'll see how this works out. It'll probably be okay because our blend space will take care of it, but we'll see how it works out. It should be okay. We could set some tiny value. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do both of these differently, come to think of it. I'm going to go back into here, and I'm going to say when speed is greater than 1. When speed is greater than 1, we'll let it say it's moving. 1, that's 1 centimeter per second. That's not very fast. And I'm going to go back into here and go back into this one. And instead of these, I'm just going to say when this is less than or equal to 1. That's probably a little more secure in terms of calculating and determining what's going on. So that's that part. So that decides, based on our speed, whether we're in idle or we're moving. So idle. Well, if we double click on idle, we get a new diagram called the idle state. And what we have here is an output result, which is the output result of an animation. And in this case, what we want to do is put our idle animation in there. If it's in this state, we just use the idle animation directly. And so when it's in this state, it will play that idle animation as the output result. When we're moving, however, we want to do something different. What we want is our Arista anim blend space, because our moving is a variable thing. It can be several animations. It could be our walking, it can be our jogging, or it can be our running, and that's what the blend space controls, is which one of those is which. Now we don't have a direction yet, so we're just going to leave that direction at 0. That's okay, because we're not using it in the blend space, and we'll just drag the speed over and drop it onto speed. Now the blend space is receiving the speed. The way that happens is the event graph is what's pulling the speed from our character and setting it into this variable. This event graph here is taking that speed and feeding it to the animation blend space and feeding the appropriate animation blended animation out to here. So over here in the animation blueprint, we select the mesh and come down here. Animation mode is use animation blueprint. What we want to do is select here our Arisa animation blueprint and hit compile and save. And now when we play, there, she's in her idle pose. Oh, by the way, our scroll wheel is backwards and running really slow. I got to fix that. But if we start running now, we run. And if we tap this, we go into walk. So I just tapped the caps lock key and she's walking. I tap the caps lock key and she's running. And if I hold, oh, I haven't set that up yet. Is it shift or control? That's our first person mode. It's not very good. We've got to make some adjustments to that. Click back out of that. But there, we got some basic animations working. Her turning isn't that great. We'll have to put some direction stuff in here and make some turning animations, get some turning animations working for her. We'll do that in some upcoming videos. Let's go try out our main landscape area under maps here. Let's open up our open world, fly down here somewhere so she's not falling too far. And she's running when she's falling because we haven't set up the jump animation yet, but there we are. She can walk, run. You got to set up the sprint to work correctly, but we have a animation. Let's fix this scroll wheel real quick. That's easy. Over here in project settings on input, where we have our scroll wheel, our scroll up, let's reverse it and make it faster. So I'm going to put -10 in the scale, and that means for every wheel axis turn we're going to do 10, but we're going to reverse it with a -10. And if we come over here now and play, I should be able to scroll in pretty quick and scroll out pretty quick, and yeah, we can scroll out a long ways. The collision on this pushes you in, and we can scroll in. Maybe 2,000 is a bit much. We'll have to check that. So, and when you're up close, she's right in front of you. So. And you can adjust where you want to be. You can slip into, let's make some adjustments to it here, so we get a better first person mode. It looks like we are in fact right in her head and directly in her body. We want to be just in front of it. So let's go here and to our viewport and get this camera boom and pull the camera boom forward a little, like that. Let's see how that does. Falling. Click. Okay. And I'm off to the side, it looks like. Okay. I messed that up. Let's go to top view. Oh, yeah. I want to be in local mode. Pull this over. Pull it out to about there. Compile, play. Scroll in. It's a bit high, but here it's in her head. You can turn around and look right at her face. And go forward, look down. She's running. That's not a bad position. If we turn all the way around, we see our face. That's kind of neat. But I want it to be just a tad bit higher. So let's go to left and let's pull it up just a little. Do I want it higher? or maybe just back a touch. Play. When you're in close, it's not too bad. It's a little jittering when we're turning. First person mode. No, we're too close. That's not good. So we're going to pull it out just a tad. Go into first person mode. Okay, we can look at ourselves. There we go. Third person mode. We can back up if we want. And I want to see if she's too much off the ground. Feet are, you know what? I'm going to go in here, go to the mesh, down here at the capsule. I'm going to pull these down just a hair. Make sure she is fully inside the capsule. She is. Compile, save, play, and see how her feet look. Whoops. See how her feet look now. She looks like she's standing on the ground a little bit better. Wherever she is. Even on a little bit of a hill. Let's see how she looks like. It looks on a hill. Heels are a bit off the ground, but can't do much about that. We'll probably just have to live with it. At least on more or less level ground. She seems to be standing. All right. So we got an animated third-person character working from Mixamo. So I'll see you in the next video. All right, that's it for this video. We've got a working Arissa character in our scene now. She's walking around, running around. In the future here, we'll be updating that and adding to it, adding more animations and so forth. So I hope you stick around and watch the rest of the videos. Thanks for watching. And if you like the video, hit that like button. If you really liked it, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to get notifications when I upload videos, hit the notify button. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.